Hi, I'm Alex Marshall, and I've actually entered the Dragon's Den competition twice with my business partner. We entered last year in, I think, May it was, when the business was still quite early stage, and then we entered again at the end of last year when the business was much more developed. So obviously entering for sort of kind of two different reasons for the funding. I'm basically just going to give you a few tips and hints that I've thought of so far from my experience. You need to explain your idea as clearly as you possibly can. The video is only a minute long, but then the pitch is only 5 minutes. So the more concise you can represent what your idea is in that video, the more time you're going to have in the pitch to further explain things. So make sure that's really clear, and then it will also help you if you have to think as clearly as possible about what your idea is. It helps you to understand fully what you're trying to do. Also, making sure that you really know what you want the money for. So you've worked out how much money you want. Break it down into a couple of different chunks, perhaps marketing, development, things like that. But make sure you're really clear with what you want to do with that money. And then afterwards, sort of finishing off by saying how you would kind of use that money. So you've said we want X amount of money for marketing, but then kind of just explaining how it is you're actually going to take that money and then use it. So furthering what you've basically just said. But obviously, yeah, it is only a 1 minute video, so just be as concise as you can. But then just try and get as much information in that video so that you've got more time to spare in the pitch, really. So the biggest piece of advice I could give is basically think as if you are the investor, as if you are the dragon. Obviously, they're giving out their own money for whatever it is that you're asking for. So when you're asking for these different things, you've got to think, would I actually give them money for that reason? So just think really carefully about what it is that you're asking for. So an example is when we asked for funding in the very first session, for funding in case we couldn't do any of the development ourselves of our app that we're making. But the way it kind of came across when we were trying to explain it was that we were asking for money in case we failed. So they basically dismissed that immediately and said, we asked for £1,500 for that, and they said, we're not going to give you that much money in case you fail. So be careful sort of the way in which you word things as well. Obviously they are giving out their own money. So the first time we entered, the business was still very early stage, but we're thinking quite short term, only sort of a few weeks, maybe a couple of months ahead. They like to see your long-term ideas and your long-term plans, so you don't necessarily have to ask for the money for that, but just kind of suggesting that this has got sort of a couple of years ahead of it, and perhaps suggesting that you might come back in the future for further funding and things like that. So just really thinking long term and much bigger than the individual idea itself. We asked for quite a lot of money for marketing. So we basically told them that we were going to promote our app and the business through the university campus using word of mouth, things like that. But then afterwards we asked for loads of money for marketing, and they basically said to us that you can do all that for free. So they're looking at the fact that we're university students, we have all these resources around us and things, so just really think about how you can bring the costs down in areas like marketing just by using what you have around you. And that means that you can go in and ask for sort of a much lower amount of money, but a much more useful amount of money. And if they at all think that you're asking for money that you really don't need, they just won't give it to you. So just think really carefully about your financials and things like that. But yeah, best of luck.